Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our Analytic Tableau user group, the September meeting. Some word about our group and ourselves. This group is like to talk about analytic in Tableau, like his name says. And we try to meet every month. And this year we achieved to have a full month of events. All our events are being recorded, and you can find the recording in YouTube. I put the link on the chat, but I will put it again. And make sure to register to the next event and to subscribe to this page so you will be informed by that. And let's be crazy. Let's promote and help us promote this TUG to your friends and colleagues if they want to learn how to do analytic in Tableau. So the group leader, it's 3 people. Chimdi, who cannot be there today, but will be there next month. Prasam and myself. So I'm quite talented to be with these 2 guys. So here are some words about me. I have the chance to be a visionary and an ambassador. I have worked as a Tableau enablement and analytic team. Currently available for hire. that was a personal message. And yes, I am very passionate about Tableau, and I'm running this analytic TUG and also Data Plus Women webinar series. So to promote women working with our own data, and also an enablement webinar. And let's go to the next awesome leader. We have Prasam. Prasam is also a visionary and ambassador. Prasam has a very beautiful portfolio in Tableau Public. I recommend you to check it out. He has 4 V's of the day, and is currently working as a manager in data visualization at Emirates. And yes, he loves cats, food, and anime. We have 2 things in common, maybe for the chat. What is the 3rd thing that we don't have in common? I'm sure they will figure out. So last but not least, we have Chimdi. Chimdi is a freelancer and contract data visualization. He is also a visionary and ambassador. And Chimdi is like out of this world. He has 15 V's of the day. Yeah, I mean, what he does in Tableau Public is like very fantastic. I encourage you to have a look at what he does. And yes, you will have the chance to see him next month. Okay. Thank you, David. So the ground rule for today is just like to enjoy. You can use the chat section, just like to say hello, to put some comment, have some fun. If you have any question for our speaker, please use the Q&A. It's already open. And we will answer this question live after each sessions. So just enjoy. The session is being recorded, and tomorrow or on Monday you will have it in YouTube. And yes, and now I will let Prasam introduce our awesome speaker for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Annabelle. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And I can see so many messages from everywhere. That's great to see. We have a great lineup of speakers today, starting with Nhung Le and Tore Levinsen. They are going to do this amazing Tableau Speed Tipping. That's 40 tips in 40 minutes. They have done this at Tableau Conference as well. And it's a great session. Followed by GB, who is going to take us beginners luck to expert strategy, evolving your Tableau problem solving skills. If you haven't checked out his Tableau Public portfolio, you should. He just crafts amazing visualizations and especially business dashboards. You should definitely check it out. And then we have Neer, who is going to talk about how he visualized one of his visualization and how to craft this memorable interactive itinerary with Tableau, QGIS, and Python. So here we go. And we are going to introduce our amazing speaker. I can see someone with a background. But first we have Nhung Le. You can follow her on LinkedIn if you haven't. We can also put that in the chat box. That will do. She's a consultant at Information Lab based in Hamburg. where she works with clients across industry to deliver data solutions. She joined the data school in 2022, and she's now transitioning into a business intelligence consultant. She has a great background in research and consulting, and you will see a lot of things what she's going to share with us, and that's really powerful. And her presentation, she's going to share the stage with Tore. And here we have our next speaker, who is a Tableau Jedi as well. I don't know how he got the name. That's the story for him to tell, not me. He's also ambassador and visionary and Norway TUG leader and an accredited Tableau trainer. He works as a Tableau Jedi in Crayon Consulting in Norway, and he has worked with Tableau since version 7.0. Kind of a vintage guy, and he's one of Europe's most merited Tableau trainers with over 3,200 participants in 15 countries. You should get a t-shirt with these numbers, Tori. And yeah, so I'm going to hand over to Nyung Le and Tore now. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you so much, guys, for taking your time and presenting with us.
Thank you. So, Torgo, do you want to start? Is everything okay with the tech there in Berlin?
I think that you should start. No.
As a point, I think I can start too.
Yes, I will.
Okay. So we go ahead and share my screen. Oh, he needs to be a presenter. Is it?
Yeah, we will update him.
Okay. So hello everybody. My name is Nhung Le. As introduced before, I am a BI consultant at the Information Lab. I come from Vietnam, but now I am based in Hamburg. So I have been using Tableau for 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. This year, earlier, I had the opportunity to present the 40 tips in 40 minutes at the Tableau conference with Torge, and I really enjoyed that. And since then, I've been presenting some tips and tricks here and there, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. So before I start, my first tip for you is to be curious and be creative, because when you are curious, you start to find a solution. And when you start to find that, somehow it will come to you. So let's start. And before we start, this set is around 20, and we have some for beginner, some advanced, and also some fun tips, maybe for the Tableau public for something like that. So we start with some parameter tips, some basic one. And here I have a line chart, and we have 2 parameters which give users the flexibility to switch between different values or maybe different date, like or month. And the first tip is that when you write the parameter, the date parameter, so you can write when it's pop up, everything in small like this. So Tableau can read that as a part of the calculation. So let's see it now. Why? So here is the calculation. Normally you have to say if this parameter is day, then the chunk of day of order date. But instead of all that, users need to do this calculation. And the other advantage of that is when you update the parameter, you don't need to come back to the calculation and update that as well. Apply it. Okay, and now we check. I change to quarters and it works. Okay, the next one, now we have different values. And then we notice in here, we have the selected values. That is the name of my calculated views. And that is, well, an ugly name to be showed in here. And I can change that quickly by double click on that, update the title using my parameter. So now I change to sales. If I change to discount, and you see discounts in here. And here, if we are in at discount, we see that the line is quite up. And sometimes we have that case too, when you can't really see, for example, in this area, you don't see if that is going up or going down. So you want to zoom in that. There is a quick way that you can zoom in the chart with parameter. The first of all, I need numeric parameter. I will set that at 0 for now. Double click on the axis again. And I can use that parameter to fix my start. For the end, automatic is okay. So see here, if I want to zoom my chart about this point, is around 40%. I can write 0.14 in here, and the chart will zoom in automatically. Okay. And you see here that I have a little caption in here. If you don't know where to find that, is under worksheet and show captions. Normally we use that for some notes like what I'm doing here to know what I'm gonna say. But you can actually write a note in that and make that a kind of in-sheet documentations. So sometimes you build something with a lot of work around, and if you hand over to the next person, it's not always straightforward to understand what you did in here. So normally I just put a note in here and say or explain what I did. So it's very easy for the next person to follow. Okay, so this one is called Fancy Progress Bar. What is that? We will come there in a minute. So first of all, I will bring in min 0 in here. If I put min 1 on the axis, we have measure names and measure values. I want to change that to the line and put measure names in colors. And now we have a simple line with 2 values. And I want to resize the line. And it's, again, not always easy using the mouse because sometimes it's too small or too hard to find the perfect point. So for that, you can use Control plus the arrows to resize the bars. Okay. So hide the header, and I want to push the size to the maximum. It's maximum already, but you see that it's still not big enough for me. So one trick to make the size bigger is to drag any values to the size. So here, for example, sales is irrelevant here, but I just want to show you if you drag that in the size of the bars, will get bigger. Okay, so if I change them 0 and 1s in here, and I said that is a progress bar, so I need progress numbers. That is some random numbers between 0 and 1. I will choose 0.8, 80%. So it's random. So if I double click on that now, we have progress bar filled with a very nice gradient colors. On the next sheet, we have a butterfly chart. Okay, on 2 sides, but something is not very right in here. So notice that the longest bar on the left-hand side show 41 millions, and on the right-hand side is 29,000 millions. But they look the same. So actually, the big picture, I think, is not correct, and we should not display a chart like that. And here is an easy way to fix that. So before that, when I started to use Tableau, I would think easy. I can double click on that one and just put in both sides, for example, 50K or something like that. But that is not dynamic. What if the new data comes in and is passed over that? So to make that dynamic, I would need the maximum values. In this case, 40,810. And the idea is I use this one to make the Raven lines on both sides. So we see in here, we have the both Raven lines with the values of the maximum bar on both sides, fixing that. And here, the biggest purple bar came back to its side. So the proportionally, they look right for me now. I'll show you how to do that. So another trick, sometimes I either right click on that and try to find that and click edit. And that one is big because I made that on purpose, but sometimes it's not easy to find the Raven line again. So you can do that from the axis, right click, edit Raven line. So that is a maximum columns in my calculation. I don't want the pink colors to be there, so I would go ahead and hide all that on this side also. So they are still there, just that you don't see them. And now you have two invisible Raven lines, making sure that the charts look right in proportion. Okay, the next one is, so okay, here is the pie chart. So if you follow TUG and me in the TCs or later, you know that we had a big argument on that. So here again, that is to show you a trick, not about if we find that is good or not, or if we recommend you to use a pie chart with a lot of pieces like this. Yeah, no, normally you shouldn't, but I just want to show you a trick. So here we are again. So here is a pie chart. Normally you can display a pie chart like that, or you can use the axis here to make a donut chart, but you have maximum only 2 layers. There is a way that you can have more layers on the pie chart. Again, here is a pie chart on a map. So I make that from that point, make point 0, 0. So some call that the non-islands in this point. I will take the point, the calculation is here. You can follow us here on my caption. I can put the point 0 to the map, and slowly you see the marks layer drop into that. We see the tiny point in here. So that is my new layers. I want that to be a white circle. Make that big. So very easy, we have a pie chart. Again, point 0, I will speed up a bit here. A pie chart with sales on angles and category on colors. Make that bigger. So that we have the third layer, and I will do one more and stop after this one. But basically, you can do as many layers as you like. Yeah, and then when you finish, you can go to map and background layers. Push the wash out to 100%, and you don't have the background anymore. So if you follow the item with this year, there was one with using this stick as well. Okay, the next one is rename the non-values. So before I knew this trick, I used to, for example, here's my non-values. Sometimes I want to display a text here to say something, this value is not available for now, for example. Before I know this trick, I used to have to write a calculation and say, if that values is none, then display this, otherwise give me the values. But now I know that you can simply right click on the value and go to format. And here there is an area for special values. And I can write, for example, not available. So that will displays in here not available very quick. Now I can even color that to make that even more standing out. Okay. And now, while we're at rename, not only the non-value, you can rename a lot of things as well. For example, these totals. I drag in the totals in here, and I can right-click and say format. I don't want to call it total, but I want to call it the net income, and give that the other colors. Yeah, so just like that, you can make the total standing out too. The next tip is also a fun one, stars rating. Okay, so you see that I am kind of passing by some, but I'm not. I just reviewed my tips, so I have 2 sets, and the other one I will show you later. So for this one, I have the rating of a few products that is 4, that have 1 star, but I don't want to display them as number. I want to display them as star. So here is a quick way to do that. Create a calculated field. I call it star for now. And for that, I want to bring in the space function. So that is a function that I think not a lot of people know about that. So I will put the rating in here. Put that next to product rating. And now that is doing something we can't see. So the space function gives the number of the spaces for X number. So here for number 4, we have 4 spaces. Here we have 1 space, and here 4 spaces. Knowing that, one more thing. I want to replace the space with the stars. So I need to bring in the stars. So these stars are Unicode characters. If you find that on Google, you can try something like star Unicode or something like that, and you have the black stars and the white star. Okay, so I will replace this with 1 black star. Hit applied. We have the stars in here. And now I want that to count up to 5. For example, here I have 4 stars, and I want the last one to be this white star. So again, copy this calculation plus, and because I want to count as up to 5, so I need 5 minus, and then replace with the white star. Okay, so very easy. We have text star system for X product rating. And for this one too, you can go to format and do whatever you want to with the stars. Okay, so the next, I will show you a few dashboard tips. So here is the 2 simple charts on the dashboard. Normally, if I want to change something on my dashboard, I will go back to my sheet and change the things in here. And when I finish, I go back to the dashboard. But do you know that you can change a few things inside the dashboard? For example, the first thing is the calculation under analysis. Edit calculated field. That is one calculation I want to change. For example, let's change 1 numbers in here. And if I click applied, you see the changes directly on the dashboard. And you can rename the sheet as well on the left-hand side. Right click, rename sheet, and just rename it. Or you can go to worksheet and tooltip and change the tooltip here as well. So if I want to change something in country and reasons, you don't need to use a mouse for the whole things, but you can simply put the mouse in the middle of that, and then you can change or format the tooltips. Yeah. The next one I want to show you is how to send an email in the dashboard using go to URL action. Here is the text for the URL action. The orange part is a part you need to write, and the other part is free text. You can fill it up, mail to someone, to me. Subject, hi Nhung, for example, and body, here is an email to you. And no space, I just do that so you can see the color. Copy. So I have built here the send email button. At the moment, if I click on that, it's not doing anything. So I need to go to dashboard and actions. Add actions, go to URL, and paste that in here. And I want to call that, for example, send Nhung an email. Menus is okay. I want that to run on my button. So send email button, click on OK. The next time, if I click on my send email button, I see send Nhung an email now. And if I click on that, we see the email we posted before. Hi Nhung, here's an email to you. But not only using that with free text, you can use, for example, with the task as well. So in this example, we have the customers and how many months are they our customer. So for example, this person, Emily Fan, since 41 months with the Superstore. So let's check the calculation. I can write something like, dear customer name, thank you for being a valuable customer since how many months. So that is a fuse that changes from customer to customer. Unfortunately, you can't not format a lot in this go to URL action. But if there's a few things you can do, for example, you can use this for break line or this for space. Okay. So let's test that by Emily Fan. If I click on that, send email to this customer. So it will show dear Emily Fan. That is 41 months. That's what we want. And check one more customer, Silona price. And then we have Silona price and 47 months. So that is an easy way to send an email inside our dashboard. Okay, so with that, I will move to my second set. And the reason I review that is for the data slammed in Frankfurt earlier. And I found that pretty cool, so I just keep that for now. So in this set, that is the tips we will go through, and I build them all as a storyline, and the stories or the use case is about how has inflation impacted my daily life. And that one was my first visit of the day, happened 3 years ago, I think. And in this story, that is the things I want to eat for my breakfast, and I want to see how inflation impacted that year by year. But before we go to that, we need to get used to, we need to see the other calculation that I will use later, running product calculation. So running product is something similar to running sum, but we use multiplication instead of addition, like what you see in here. And for the running product calculation, I need to bring in the previous values. And I need that to times my value. So basically, take the values times the values before, and we need to aggregate that. So I put the min in here. And in the first row, we don't have any previous value. So I want that to multiply it by 1. So test. And by the way, that is also one tip that you can test some ad hoc like this. So, okay, with 2 times 3 is 6 times 4 is 24. So the calculation work. Now come back to the breakfast use case. So that breakfast has cost me 10 euro in 2020, 2011. And that is an inflation rate of some imagination country. And I want to know how much do I need to pay for the same breakfast year over year. So for that, we need to prepare the calculation first. So I will copy this part and explain you what that does. Put that in text. We will start with 10 euros, and the next is 1 plus inflation, saying, for example, here, if inflation is 7%, I need to pay in 2013 107% the price I paid the year before. So if we talk about inflation, it's always compared to the years before, not to our 10 euro in the beginning. So that's why we need previous values function. So it's similar when you talk about interest rate. Yeah. So click OK, and now the yearly price. In the first year, it's still 10 euros, and the second years I need to pay with inflation rate 10.9, 11 euro 9 cent, and after 10 years, it's more than 70 euros for my interest, for my breakfast. So now looking at inflation from the other perspective. So inflation is raising price of the good, and at the same time, that means that the money is losing its value. So looking at that perspective, if I have only 10 euros, how much I can buy? I know that I can buy less and less and every year, but how much? So take 10 divided by the price. I can calculate how much I can buy. The first year is still 100%. Second year is 90%. And after 10 years, I can only buy 57% of what I bought 10 years before. So put that 100% in this bar chart in years 2020, 2011. In the futures, we have 100%. And if you put that in paces instead, we have animations. So with animation, you can click and see the bar is going down and down every year. And I said in the beginning that I want to see the impact of inflations in my daily life. Actually, I don't want to see that at all, but you know what I mean. So if that's still here, I want to see that the impact on my breakfast. So with that, I can do the similar thing as well. So seeing that I can buy less and less, my huge cappuccino is getting less and less, and in the end, it's a small cappuccino and just a little bit of the donut, for example. And the trick behind that is, behind this fancy breakfast, that is the image above a bar chart, and here's a pie chart, and here is a half of the pie chart, and here is the other bar chart. And the trick is, so see this image, you need to do that inside transparent, and the outside part should have the colors of the background color. So I will show that for you in here if you want to try to do. So the inside part is transparent and the outside part is not transparent, and it has the colors that should match the background colors. So that is one example. And back to what I said in the beginning, I want to encourage you to be curious and to be creative, so that you have a lot of fun with data visualization, as I did too. So thank you very much. And now I will hand over to Tore.
Thank you very much, Nhung. That was very, very good. People love it. You will see on the comments.
Oh, thank you.
We will answer the question a little bit later.
So many interesting ones.
You
Yeah.
can stay a little bit.
Can we hear now?
Yeah.
Tori?
I can see some the Berlin organizer in the background of Tori. Hello. Berlin is mute. I don't know why it's not working.
He even got a new computer, and that's why it's happening.
I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. It's like maybe GB can start if we cannot figure out, but I'm more worried for the Berlin TUG who is waiting for a Tore presentation. Okay, so maybe we can answer some questions in the meantime, Nhung. Yes, are you able to get this workbook? We will put the link for you. And we will also have the recording of the session in YouTube. I have seen some people asking some questions on the chat, and I asked them to put them on the Q&A, but they didn't. They are not very helpful. I know that they haven't registered for next month's event also, Prasam, so they will. No, they ask quite interesting question. At the beginning, sorry, I will say we'll try to find recover. That was, yes, everyone likes the space function. That was very, very cool. I haven't seen myself, to be honest. I will have written a long calculation, if it's 4, please display this number of stars. So I think it was very, very cool. I'm trying to, that's why we always ask people to put it on the Q&A and not in the chat, because it's very complicated. Yes, we had one question from Alberto. Could you use the same approach to replace the aggregation? Yes, so when you create a calculation, you create a calculation with the dimension, and he was asking, hey, can you create a calculation with average, a sum, or average of sales, or sum of whatever. Yes, we can hear you, Tore.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Magic.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you to the IT gods of Berlin.
Yeah, it's the magic of being live.
I'm going to take off my glasses so I can see those beautiful people as well.
Hello, Nia. You're still in the car. We still have time.
Yes. No, but the car is the most safe place to take this session. So.
Can you see my screen? You can hear me, and everybody's happy.
Yes. Yeah. You can start your presentation. Don't worry.
Amazing. So we just switched. We've done so much stuff. So hello, this is me, a Norwegian living in Norway, but going to Berlin to present because then I get a paid trip from my company. So that's quite helpful to meet some nice people here in Berlin as well. I'm going to do some tips, I hope, on a laptop that I don't know in German, which I now regret that I only studied for half a year, but hopefully it will work. Let's see. So let's begin with this beautiful visualization as a box and whisker plot. We see subcategories. We see those across for sales for each and every customer. But what we don't see in here is that if I click on the binders, for example, on the tooltip, we see we have 1,300 items versus on fastener, we have 226. Paper, we have 1,200. But it's almost impossible to see because they are overlapping each other. We could go to colors and do this opacity thing that I've already done, but since there's so many at the same level at the same time, we could use a hidden trick first by just double clicking. This is something you've probably seen as well. If you just double click on any pill, you can basically do whatever math you can. You can just multiply the sales by 2 if you want to. Maybe you shouldn't, but you can. So if I'm going to now add in a function called random, and random, as you can see, it doesn't pop up with the IntelliSense. So it's not documented, but it's supported by Tableau. So when I select this random function and click enter, you see that something is happening below here. All of these dots get a random number between 0 and 1. And we do see a spread of our data a bit easier than what we did before. What's a bit annoying, of course, is all this, the axis down here that's repeating random, so we can get rid of this. And then just to have a look at paper now, if I just keep only for paper, you see that we have a whole bunch of circles in here. So this is a way of using this random to create something called jittering to see the distribution a bit more easily. We can also combine this by doing random and index. So we're looking at the same data, but now I already have this random working in here. But now I'm going to drag first sales to size. So each bubble for each customer will then have a bigger size depending on how much sale it is. So far it doesn't look at least any better than it was. But now I'm going to combine the random function with the index function. And the index function, it's both documented and supported by Tableau. So this is a table calculation. Now we're more making, I don't know, some steps or some art in here instead of a visualization. So this index function is assigning each and every customer an index from 1 till whatever value we have inside of each category. So every time we create a table calculation, we should remember to look at the scope and direction. So when I right-click on the index and change this to create an index for each and every customer, we get this, I don't know, I guess there's a name for this as well, but it's like a bubbled, jittered bar chart. So we see that for Ressources, we have roughly 500 and something customers because the index goes up to this number. We have more on binders, and if you remember paper, we have now, how much is it? 600 unique customers with different sales. And of course, the size is now showing the sales. You can adjust the sales size a bit if you want to, but please don't exaggerate because then you're making art or crap instead of making a visualization. So the next tip is about measures, measure names, measure values. So somebody commented earlier that every time you look at Tableau, you always learn something. And I actually learned something new as well on measure names by chance the other day. But this one I've known for some time. We're looking at sales and quantities and discount, as you can see here. So discount is in percentage, quantities is in the thousands, and then we have up to 400,000 in sales. But since we're using measure names and measure values, we see measure values goes from 0 till 400,000. And then, of course, this one is very blue because that's the biggest value. And the percentage is 0 point something, so we can't really compare. We do have measure values on color. So right-click is your friend. You right-click and there's always something new popping up in here. You have this use separate legends. If you click on that, you get a separate legend on the right-hand side, one for percentages from 12 to 18. So we see the variation between the different delivery modes and years. And then we have quantities and sales also having their own range. You can, of course, go in here and edit the colors individually for all of these. It's just a bit slow. Let's put in purple, for example, and then you have different colors as well. Please don't, again, exaggerate by adding a whole bunch of colors just because you can, because that also will confuse your users. Now, if technology is working as expected, and I can find my workbook on Tableau Public. This is now, hopefully you see now my Tableau Public, where I'm going to show you some couple of things that you can only do in the browser that you can't do on in desktop, which is really annoying, I have to say. We can do it in cloud or a server or public. So if I go to this dashboard, it just needs to be, I guess, reloaded, doesn't it? I think that's what it says in German. When you've seen all these error messages so many times, you know what they say, even though it's in a different language, luckily. So this is a beautiful dashboard. It's going to be part of the R&D this year. But the idea here is that if I go and check on the left-hand side, we have, of course, all our sheets. We have our objects as well. But if we want to switch to layout, we have a shortcut, the T for Tore. So you can switch between dashboard and layout. So if I go to layout, of course, we have all our containers. And you know that is really annoying. Whatever you do when you drag stuff into a dashboard, there will be a container inside of a container inside of a container, and you don't have control of whatever's going on. Remember to right click, and somewhere in here, you will then select rename. I don't know which one, but bottom one, this one. So if you right click, you can then rename any container. So you don't have 15 horizontal and 15 vertical ones. Another annoying thing in here, this you can also do in desktop. But if I would like to move this particular sheet inside of one of those other containers over here, see that I have a whole bunch of containers, but if I don't hit exactly the sweet spot that I'm aiming for, it ends up with being something that I don't want to do, and you have to control set out of it and try again. But in cloud or server, if I would like to move this, maybe I would like to move it inside of this vertical container over here. I just take it, I drag it, and I let go like this. So you can move objects inside of this hierarchy. You can even move containers, drag them up and down however we want. And this is, I often do it, start on desktop, publish it, and then I do the small adjustments in here. Fortunately, we can't do this on desktop at the moment. And also remember, if there's too many containers and they don't make any sense, you can always right click, and you have two options in here. The top one is to remove, isn't it? Remove the containers. And now you see it just disappeared, which is good. But if you then are looking at the German computer or even an English one, and you say a container, I think delete container or something, it takes the container. No, it wasn't that one. Which one is it? It's get rid of that one. Then you get rid of the container and the content as well. So remember the difference, but you always have control set. So let's go back. I do have another dashboard as well. And then inside of this, this little container over here, if you want to select the container, you can just click on one sheet, double click, then you get the next level of containers. If I would like to reuse this in a different dashboard, I go to this one and then I kopieren, I think. Let's see. You go to your new dashboard and you do Control V. And then you copy the whole element in here. You can't copy anything that contains a sheet or any data like that, but you can do that with any other type of elements. And then you switch it to be not anymore floating and then tiled like this, for example. Couple of other things in here. If you're looking, if you're looking at a specific, if you have a data model like this sample EU Superstore, it's three tables that are combined in a relationship. And then data model is that I need help, Heidi. Where's my view data model? There you go. This one, date model. So if you click on this, and you just have patience, you see that this is the data model that is behind this sample EU Superstore. But what is actually used in my jitter plot in the background, I can turn on and off the ones that are related or used. So we see that only orders are used. So this is quite handy. And if you have 2025.2, that's something that I just saw the other day. If you are right-clicking on any blue pills or green pills, you can then go in this one, and then it will show you where it is in the data pane on the left-hand side. So if you don't find it or you're uncertain where it is. Then we have some shortcuts on dashboard, on the dashboard as well. You have the F7 to go from presentation mode to the development mode that we have in here. If you press the G button, you see that you get a grid or remove the grid, depending on if you want to have it there or not. So if you want to have those pixel perfect dashboards, you can add these grids and adjust the size. And then if you have floating elements like this, if you use the arrows, it moves. I'm just going to find a floating element. Hopefully this one is floating. There you go, this container. No, I don't have any floating elements apparently. This one, is this floating? Yeah, so this is floating. Use the arrow, you can move it around 1 pixel. You use shift and arrow, so you move 10 pixels as well. Going back to my workbook. And for round 2, or It would have been if we would have switched between me and Nhung, and I could complain again about why she's using all these pie charts, but it looks really good. I do co-host the Data Plus Maps user group. We had an excellent session last week with two of the hosts from this user group, Prasan and Annabelle, representing map layers. So if you're interested in anything that's related to spatial data or geography or maps, please join. We're going to have a new session coming up. So I love maps. I do use maps quite a lot as well. And I use maps to show maps, not to build a donut chart inside of a donut chart inside of another donut chart. So we see that we have some sales of all these different countries. Norway over here, this is where I come from. Now we're down here in this country called Germany, or at least we're sitting in here. So if I now drill down to this is a field map. And then I click like this. Then I don't have a field map anymore in city. So I would like to still have the field maps and keep those cities. And then again, we keep the field map like this. We go to location and find city. We drag it in as a separate marks layer. Of course, very self-centered. So when I have all these European cities like Cologne and Oslo, the capital of Norway, it also exists in the US. So it's a fun way to check if any cities exist in the US, because it thinks that this is where the data is. So if we add a country as well, we get the circles where they should be. I can't see the circles too well, so I'm just going to make them darker and maybe add a tiny border in here. But still, when I hover over to Bergen, where I come from, I see that Norway, Sweden, the countries are flickering in here. The benefit of these map layers is that I can go to the country region map layer, click on this triangle. Every time you see a triangle in Tableau, that means there's a menu. So if I disable the selection, now it doesn't flicker, and I can see those proper cities and sales and stuff in here. But I live in a country called Norway, so I'm going to add a filter where I'm going to show only Norway. I'm going to do none. Look at Norway, and of course it zooms into Norway. We don't get the sales in Sweden and Finland, but still we see those damn Swedes and Finns in here. I don't want to see those. I want to see only Norway, or whatever country you're focusing on. So since we do have a field map in here, we can use the same trick that Nhung did earlier. I go to the background layers, and we wait a bit, and then we can just get rid of Sweden and Finland like this. Then you keep Norway or whatever country you're selecting. As long as you have a field map, you don't need to have everything in the background. It doesn't need to say Norway or Norwegian with huge letters, because I know that this is where my data is from. A couple of more tips. This is when you have all these circles, the size of the sales. See that if I zoom in here, just scrolling in with the mouse, see that, of course, we have a lot of sale in Paris, but it's covering the rest of the cities. You can do this see-through thing, of course, with the colors and opacity, so that helps a bit. But if you're not you're not needing exactly the exact values of comparing the circles, you can change from circle to use this density as well, and then you get this density map. This always looks pretty cool if you put any date on pages as well, and then you see how the sales are moving, or like the disease are spreading. I don't know what type of data you're looking at. Next one, I have a few more. So you just have to cut me off when I spent my time, because I have no idea. I can talk here for like 3-4 hours, but I'll stick to my 20 minutes ish. This is more a fun tip. This is also something that you don't do by chance, I guess, but you have a map in here. If you get rid of latitude, longitude, you get all the shapes of your map or of your countries. So you can then have a quiz at work to figure out which country is this. Of course, you shouldn't hover over, because then it says so. And then if you drill down to different regional states or cities, you will get the same type of shapes in here. So that was a few tips on maps, and now I'm going to do a couple of order matters in Tableau, and then we'll finish up one dashboard tip in the end. If you have this dual axis, so we have one that is a line and you have some bars. Annoyingly enough, the line is behind the bars. You have multiple choices of fixing this. As always in Tableau, there's always many ways to solve stuff. I can go to the color on the bar ones and change the opacity. So it's a bit lighter red. You don't get the hard red that I had originally, but then you see the line and the bar. If you don't want to do that, you can always switch the order of these green pills. Then you get the line in front, but now we have profit on the axis to the left. We have sales on the right. Maybe we would like to keep it as it is. The third option is to right-click. There's always a right-click option. And then you can say just move marks to the back. You keep profit axis on the right-hand side, and you see the line as well. Another example is if you create a tree map. Now we have we see that the central region is the biggest one, where France has the biggest sale, United Kingdom is biggest in the north, and so on. If I then also add in the date, I'll put this on label. We see that central is obviously still the biggest region, and then and France is the biggest country, and then France is biggest in 2023, and then second biggest in 2024, and so on and so on. But if I change the order of year and country, you see that central in 2024 is now bigger than central in 2023, and so on and so on. So the order of where you put these matter. But it could end up being quite overloaded with too much stuff in here as well. So we could do these small multiples and drag year on columns or row, depending on how your data is shaped. And we see that 2024 is the biggest, and inside of 2024, central Germany, Germany in the central region is the biggest. Another one, if I'm going to change these beautiful visualizations to a packed bubble, this is it's not necessarily the best visualization type, but it's quite easy to just go to show me and switch to a different type of visualization like this. I'm just going to make it entire view, and then we're going to make some fun in here when I'm going to do the customer name on detail as well. So now we'll get one circle for each and every one, and this is just like those quizzes that you get. Which number can you see in here? I never see any numbers, so for me that doesn't work. There's no number. Well, there's a lot of numbers, but there's no hidden pattern in here. If I now add country and region to color, it looks really amazing, doesn't it? And again, it will affect the order of when I put country and region in the beginning instead of customer name. So you see it's ordered by the different regions, and then we have the multiple customers in here. But what if I would like to have customer name for a really strange reason on color? If I drag this one in, of course, it's only customer name on color. You can't have two things on color by default. But you can trick Tableau because if you drag something on the color in here, it will switch it out. But if you click in the beginning and switch from here, you have multiple colors. So meaning that first we have this orange color for the country, and then we have a different variation of that orange for each and every customer name. And what you're looking at now is, of course, nothing that you should ever build in a real life situation. It's just more of talking about the order of operation, and now you can print this and have fun with it. Final tip. This is an overview of some streaming of some data on Spotify. And you see when I hover over in here, there's an embedded URL. So if I click on that URL, it will open up and you can listen to like a preview of Aurora. She's a Norwegian artist. That's why I clicked on that one, obviously. But what if we rather would like to put the web page in here? There's a web page object that you can put in and just randomly putting in something in here now. I'm from Norway after all, and this is the homepage of the Norwegian pension fund. This is how much money we have in Norway. I just wanted to show, but you see it's going, well, it doesn't matter. The point here is if we don't have anything in here, no URL, get rid of it. Then you go to the same song. I didn't, I'm just going to highlight or it doesn't matter. Like this. And then on the tooltip, come on, you get it in here, and then you can play the song in here and just allow everything. It's not my computer, so let's see if it actually plays. Thank you. That is 20 plus tips in 20, I don't know how many minutes. Let me now see if I can find out and stop sharing my screen. It's in here. And stop sharing. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay, so now I think we already had a lot of fun with so many tips from Nhung Le as well as Tore. And thank you so much for figuring all of that out, Tore, and presenting with us. Yeah. Okay, so now we'll move on to the next session, and our speakers are waiting. So let me introduce our next speaker now. And here we have GB. He is a senior data analyst at Sanlam FinTech with over 4 years of hands-on Tableau experience. He's passionate about transforming complex data into clear, engaging visual insights that drive better decisions. He's a Tableau Public Ambassador and a visionary, and has been celebrated with 6 Viz of the Day selections, 2 Vizzies, I remember last year, and a shortlist for Information is Beautiful Awards. Also, he's a co-lead of Lagos Tableau user group. Such a great community they are building, and yeah, they're doing great events. They have these mentor sessions as well, and I think it's actually really great what they are doing at Lagos TUG. And also, he's a proud Manchester City supporter, and he loves getting lost on Pinterest. Today, he's going to talk about beginner's luck to expert strategy, evolving your Tableau problem-solving skills. So now I will stop, and I'll hand over to GB. Take the stage.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right, let me just share my screen. Okay, let me know if you can please answer my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So hi everyone, I am Gbolahan Adebayo, and I'm really excited to be here. First of all, thank you to Nora for those amazing tips. Really got 1 or 2 for myself there. Today I'll be talking about beginner's luck and moving to expert strategy and how you can evolve your Tableau problem solving skills. And the agenda would start from the introduction to my journey, and then we move to how I try to dissect client problems I get to meet, or problems like our work, or or any kind of problem that involves solving data visualization analysis. And then I move on to talk about how I used to approach some of these problems in the past while I was still trying to get into Tableau, into analysis as a beginner. And now that was based on a solution of work. And then I want to discuss about how over time I've been able to learn and sort of build out a strategy for success for myself for some of these problems that I faced. And then finally, we get to talk about the parts that you could use to evolve your skills from this beginner level to level, and then question and answers if any. Okay, so thank you very much, Person, for the introduction. About me, I think Person has introduced most of it. I love music outside of Tableau, Manchester supporter. And then I also have a puppy named Vizzy, the Vizzy Awards. So that's Vizzy. So this is my Tableau journey roadmap. I started using Tableau, got into the community about 4 to 5 years ago. And the first stage, or my first step, was basically exploring. I got to discover Tableau from the course I was taking initially, and then that really intrigued me. And then I got to discover Tableau Public. And my first foray to Tableau was about learning the basics of Tableau and engaging with the community for the first time. And I was able to get into this through community challenges, most especially Monday and Back to Visual Basics. That's usually very beginner friendly. Then did a little bit of reverse engineering and Tableau Public, downloading people dashboard, decide what are going to the process of building the dashboard, and then attending several TUG meetings as well to keep learning and understanding what Tableau is about. And then after this initial stage of exploring, I tried to then start practicing my skills, connecting to the text from some of these community challenges, and then trying to develop calculated fields, parameters, and dashboards, early dashboards for feedback. Did this mostly through workout when the challenges, because it's usually great when you're technical skills, especially when it comes to calculations, and also either social media or with some of my peers for feedback, and then reiterating on those feedback through the community and colleague reviews, basically. And then I then moved into improving my design skills, but not just in the visual aspect, but also in terms of not doing charts, but trying to put charts together to create a tool and not just building dashboard. So moving from just building pretty charts to building dashboards with good flow and structure, and then applying some of these several design principles to improve visibility, white space, front hierarchy, and the rest. And then onward from that, it's been strategizing, and then having gained some of the skills, then the question is, how do I use the skills to solve real business problems in my workplace or wherever freelance clients gigs I get, and then finally giving back to the community. And this that was focused on usually trying to tackle real business problems by applying some structured frameworks or from some of this, learned from the past up to this point, and trying to get myself into mentoring some of my peers or participating in giving it, especially Lagos TUG, speaking at sessions like this or in our sessions. And so, moving into anatomy of a real life problem. So before we jump into building a dashboard or working in or trying to create a visualization, there's usually a real client's problem that we're trying to solve, and I try to approach whatever problem that I encounter from 6 different perspectives, basically. So first, I try to understand what is the request or the clear objective, and that's usually the stage of the project that starts with the defined question problem that is to be addressed through the analysis. So what is the main question, or what is the main problem that this project or this product is going to try to solve? And then the next part is the stakeholders of the audience. And so because when you are building a dashboard or building, it's definitely so that it's to be used by an audience or by several group of people. And then it's very important that I build this product or this dashboard in a way that it is tailored to this audience or these stakeholders, basically. So this is very important that it's very important to understand who would be using the dashboard and what they need to have access to and who needs to see what. And then the third step in the process is, after understanding what was our on the entire, and then how do they connect to the data, where is the data being stored. So this usually involves the process of identifying the right data sources and then ensuring some preparation or the cleaning of data as well needed so it's usable. And after this step, the next question is the purpose or the usage of this dashboard. So what would this dashboard be doing, or how would it be used, or what questions would be used to answer? And that's how I find out the dashboard will be applied from results to how to help the stakeholders or the audiences to drive decisions and optimizations. And then now that all this has been done, then get into actually building the dashboard or the project itself. So this goes from designing calculations to building the charts and the visualizations, and then putting things together on a dashboard or on several dashboards, activity and actions, and then finally performance optimizations, right? Because so the dashboard can respond in time or doesn't take ages to load up. And then the final of my process when I approach a real life problem or like real client problem is the deployment and the iteration and then the documentation, because it's usually important that after you dashboard, you get feedback, you try to improve on the feedback. Sometimes it's a back and forth process. And then most importantly, you document during this process so can be used even while you're not going to be the one to maintain the dashboard or for future use cases. And so we can then introduce a real life problem, and then we basically try to talk about how I used and how the approach has changed over time with learning of several strategies or skills to solve these problems. So the real client problem in this case for myself was a question of how do we create a dashboard product that allows the stakeholders to compare performances of a campaign running across multiple channels. So this is very marketing inclined, where in the organization of the company, the marketing team had a campaign running across multiple channels, TikTok or Meta or Google. And so the question or the request is to create a dashboard that would allow the guys to make the decisions to compare performances across all the several channels. The objective of this problem was one, to enable 100% of the team to independently monitor and understand how the campaign is performing every time, and then reliance on ad hoc analysis. And then two, to design and deploy self-serve reporting tools that would basically cut down the amount that will be required to distribute campaign reports for those that need to understand campaigns are performing. And then finally, to improve the process of comparing these channels across by making sure that we can standardize the tricks that we use to define performance across these channels. And then this in turn allows the stakeholder, the leadership, or the audience to make faster driven decisions on where to allocate spend, how much is being spent in this campaign, if this channel should prioritize the channel or what have you. And so,
excuse me to interrupt you. We have some user that said that if you could just stop your videos to allow the bandwidth to be better, and we can understand you better when you speak. Sometimes the audio is breaking up, but just let's try that. But then we want to see your beautiful face at the end. Huh?
Okay, please let me know if it's better.
Yeah, yes, it seems better now. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so that's this is my process. Anyway, get to encounter a problem, and then we just then look at how I get to apply these 6 different approaches to this problem of creating a product that would allow stakeholders to compare performance of this campaign running across multiple channels. And so for that problem, the first part of my strategy is to look at the request or the objective. And yes, the request is to build end-to-end dashboards that would allow the stakeholders to compare this campaign performance across the channels in 5 clicks with full visibility under 24 hours of campaign launch. So what this means is I try to analyze what the initial request is, and then for this particular problem is to build dashboards that will allow the stakeholders to easily access this as quickly as they can, and then where they're able to view the performance as close as they can to real time, basically. So that's why it's scoped that within 24 hours of campaign launch, basically. Then moving on to the stakeholders or the audience. So the stakeholders or the audience for the particular problem is marketing managers and then the campaign owners, and then some of the executives will need to track the performance of this campaign quickly. And each of this group definitely requires different levels of detail, right? From the tactical data metrics to the high-level summaries or quick decision making. And then next part of how I then approach this problem is in terms of the detection and the preparation. So the dashboard is to allow near real-time monitoring of the campaign outcomes. So it was important that there is access to the data wherever it's stored, across multiple channels. In this case, across TikTok, Google, Meta. So first, having like a 2 by 5 tran to make sure like we can consolidate every of these channels into one single and running that through Snowflake before it comes through to Tableau. And then next is the purpose of the usage of this dashboard. I think I used this twice, but that's fine. So the dashboard is to goal is to enable the real-time monitoring of the campaign, reduce how much time we spend on ad hoc analysis and manual reporting, basically. And then to the next part of our approach the problem, which is the technical approach and the calculation. So for this particular problem, some important metrics that are standardized across the several channels is to understand the spend, the clicks, the of acquiring new customers, the value of the business, and then also making sure like the dashboard is very interactive, of filters and parameters, and then tuning the performance. The dashboard can load even large volumes of data because we want to make sure it's as close to real time as possible. And finally, deploying the dashboard on the cloud for products, and then working with stakeholders for feedback, and then reiterating the designs, and then managing permissions so that those who are supposed to have access to the right information do. Then we get to document the data sources, the metric, calculation logic. And this is usually my approach to a problem. And then now we've broken the problem down into these 6 different perspectives. And then, so next would be how I do, I've broken it down. And then as a beginner, some of the pitfalls or the mistakes that used to be while trying to, approach this problem from this 6 different perspectives. Because when you approach a client's problem as a beginner, it's sometimes often means that the success of that project depends on law. What I mean by that is, hoping that you make the data clean or whatever calculations you have work, and then the stakeholders accept the attempts rather than following proven methodologies. There's a lot of hope and wishing like things just go straight. And then, as we all know, it never really just goes like from 0 to 100 in these cases. And so from the first approach, which is understanding the request of the clear objective, one mistake I used to make as a beginner was to just ask the product without asking what the clear objective actually is. So for example, in this case where we had to build a campaign dashboard would allow different channels to be compared. A good question to always ask is, what is a good campaign? What decisions will this dashboard drive? And then as a beginner, most times just process and just jump straight right in without, properly understanding what the request is. And then another error, like under the request to clear objective approach, is trying to build everything on one single screen and then expecting users to figure out their own path through the data. Actually talking about the ignore the get analysis. So build everything on a screen, expect users to figure out their path through the data instead of designing a logical flow inside. And then another error I used to make is in terms of misaligned expectations. So I used to assume that I know what the stakeholders want. I don't really mean is like me being too extra. I can just go straight right into it. And then what usually happens at the interactive to you, there's misaligned expectations, and then we have multiple revision cycles, and then the stakeholders are frustrated as to why it has to take just many revision cycles for us to get to the final product. And as a beginner that is always eager to impress, there's usually this solution first thinking, where instead of LM, the first is I need to build a heat map for this, or I need to build a geographic view for this before trying to understand what question is being needed to be answered. And one pitfall as well is not properly understanding what success means for that particular dashboard or product you're working on. How would you know if your dashboard is working if you don't know what working actually means, right? Like, how would you know that this dashboard that you're trying to build would actually be useful in the context rather than building lots of dashboards that nobody ends up using at the end of the day? And then moving on to the stakeholders or the audience, like under like breaking down the trend. As a beginner, I used to first ignore the audience purpose. I build one dashboard for everyone instead of properly understanding that there are executives, they are maybe much more likely to be involved, like much more likely to appreciate high-level summaries, while running this campaign from day to day are going to be appreciate much more detailed or tactical method. And then in this process, you then skip, how the users would actually access this dashboard in their daily workflows, right? When you do not have any user journey mapping, so you don't understand when or where often these users will access this dashboards. And then missing audience segments. I used to, in this case, for this particular use case, probably treat the campaign managing officer and then the campaign specialist as if they have identical needs, right? And then they are technically savvy the same way. So use dashboard without putting in context the kind of audience, and probably the campaign marketing officer is going to understand some technical metrics better than a campaign specialist. And another was skipping change management, where you don't have any plan for traders or communicating the launch. So there is no plan for how the user is able to work with the dashboard or be able to learn some of the functions or features. And then, this usually means adoption is slow and the users fall back to the old manual process if they're not able to understand how to use the dashboard. And finally, there's usually the eagerness to overload with metrics, where you just try to show as many technical metrics as possible. You write acronyms, CTR, CPC, without considering whether I understand what these acronyms means, right? Like, you just try to import as many technical metrics as you can into the dashboard. And then the next step, at the level of the data acquisition and preparation, as a beginner, you used to make mistake where you don't understand where the data is coming from. You basically disconnect the data. You don't try to understand like what tables are connected to each other, or there's implementation that you need to understand, or how these fields connect to one another, and you then run into the portal where numbers don't match each other or numbers don't match other reports, and there's no idea why that is happening. And then in terms of data source limitations, usually as a beginner when you start, you basically play around with Tableau Public a lot, and that usually plays a big role when you have to connect to from data sets from Excel and CSV files, and you have to connect to like Snowflake or AWS or wherever data is stored. And this used to be a pitfall because I started learning a lot with Tableau Public and limitations of connecting to CSV and Excel, and then trying to get over that pitfall. So was usually a problem. Then another error on the data acquisition and preparation is skipping the standardization parts of it, where you have to make sure, like in this use case, probably for a metric like conversion, you don't try to make sure like, okay, what does cost acquisition mean across all channels? Does it mean the same thing? Is it different? Can we compare it? You just take a particular metric and then you assume it's going to be the same across it, or it's going to be different across it. And this leads to some issue that comes up when you are joining data with nulls. You join campaign data to spend data and don't create duplicates because you don't have an idea of this should be done together. Some of these errors usually come up at trying to do a demo, and then you hear a stakeholder say this data, this number looks wrong, or this doesn't look correct. And finally, a very important one is assuming what some particular values mean, right? Could nulls and then assume that they should be excluded without having this check and balance efforts where you try to check what noise means, or if it means something, or how do you handle some of these scenarios. And then moving on into my fourth process, where I try to look at how I approach this problem as a beginner. There's also usually the problem where you get access and then you use the dashboard, and then you are very eager to rather than solve business problems. So I used to make that mistake where I look at the dashboard, I'm like, I just until it's how to use the school parameter action, how to use this particular feature in Tableau, and then you're mostly implementing those cool things rather than actually understanding if it would help solve the business problem or not, or if this would help someone in this case make a better decision or not. And then this pushes you to a scenario where that doesn't have a narrative, and the dashboard is a collection of charts with no story, no flow, and how to interpret the results. And then because the user is interacting with this dashboard and there's no flow, there's no story, it's hard for the user to get insights basically. So your dashboard could be showing performance metrics, but lacks the connection to specific actions like, okay, how do we know that we should pause this campaign or we should increase this budget? Well, just showing everything and just have lots of charts, but there's no flow between them. And just want to so while you're then working on the dashboard itself, doing the technical approach and the calculation problems, as a beginner, you try to try to put all as many calculations as possible into one field, or it's one calculated field, no cost, and it becomes very hard for anybody to understand or to debug. And then there is no testing strategy because build calculations and immediately put them into chart, edge cases, like for example in this case, what happens with zero spend, or what happens if there is missing conversion for this kind of dashboard. And then you also have like lack of future proofing, which is a very common error that you used to make, where, for example, you create a calculation for current year and then you add to the year that you currently are dashboard. But when it's a new year, all the calculations fail because there is no presence of future proofing your calculations or in the views that you have. Versus live confusion, there's always the confusion of not understanding when to use live connections versus extracts, where your dashboards time out because you're dealing with large campaign data sets. You understand how to schedule extracts, schedule extracts to refresh periodically, or you just make sure that because you got the request for dashboards to be as close as real time as possible, I just use a live connection, and then the data is so large, it's so slow, and nobody gets to use it. And then finally, for my last approach as a beginner, at the level of the deployment and the iteration, there's usually the set and forget delivery where you build the dashboard once, you publish it, and then you open work forever. There's lack of monitoring, there's no iteration on how people would actually get to use the dashboard. You connect to the tasks, and then you basically build your data model in your Tableau workbook. And then when you push it to the cloud, if there is any need to adjust things, you have to everything is distributed to that workbook, and then you have to share that workbook instead of creating published data sources or have several workbooks connect to a published data source. You have different workbooks connecting to the and you're creating different models for different dashboards, and that becomes all a mess, and maintenance becomes a nightmare. And you have zero documentation because as a bit no idea of what that means. You also ignore access management because you start to have that everybody doesn't get the same access level, and junior campaign managers can probably see sensitive budget information for executives. So these approaches for beginners usually very common, even if you might not be a victim of all, but in some of these different approaches, it's usually shows up. So, but with time, when you have your solution that solves the problem, and as an expert, you look at some of these breakouts about to approach the problem, and then you pay attention to some of these different objectives, right? So for the first part of the request of the clear objective, as an expert, or what is expected of you to do is to start with asking the question of what decision with this data. In our campaign example, for example, the question is trying to see if we need to shift the budget from one to another, or how are we going to define success, for this dashboard that we're building. And so as an expert, under the request of clear objective, you try to understand that for the success metric, what does success mean? Does it mean that there's 100% team independence, or we want to reduce the manual reporting by 80%, or just basically try to understand what are the clear measurable outcomes. And then for as an expert tries to approach the request of clear objective problem, they try to have problem solution alignment where they validate that the dashboard is actually the solution and not just the requested solution, because sometimes the request that you have might not actually be the right one. And so how do you navigate that process of understanding that what the dashboard is going to be is actually the right one, if this is actually the dashboard that I should be building, or just because it's requested, right? So if the problem is just coming from the process and not just from the reporting side of things. And then as an expert, there is scope boundaries. You basically define what is going to be built in this phase versus future enhancement. Like if you're building this particular, what other future requests would we be having, or do we need to improve the dashboard in the nearest future? And then another drives you to being able to align mental strategy. So ensuring that for this case, that the KPIs that is going to be tracked is supporting the strategic objectives and not just showing interest in the points. And then in the breakouts of the problem under the stakeholders or the audience, an expert perspective, you try to conduct, stakeholders interviews. You try to sit as many times as you possibly can to understand what are the different flows and what are the information needs for this particular dashboard they are going to build, and then to be able to understand who needs to see what at what level. So if an executive is there, and they need to see, for example, metrics, do I need to create Tableau metrics for them where they get it in their emails or on their phones, rather than sharing full view dashboards? And maybe that should be made for campaign managers that need to understand how things are working on a very granular level. And then you are able to then design role-based experience. Different users can see different views and they have different things according to their job responsibilities. And then an expert also does into consideration by planning how users will learn how to use the dashboard, because if you have an amazing dashboard and people don't know how to interact with it, and it becomes just useless. And then moving on, data acquisition and preparation. How do you make sure like you are applying strategy for success in this? One, by making sure like you have proper data lineage. You map out exactly where it's coming from, how often it updates, what happens when you're unable to connect to the Facebook, questions like that. And then you build quality assurance frameworks where you have automated checks that can help you check if the data is complete or setting when the campaign tracking breaks, basically. And then it's also important because in the data acquisition and preparation process, that you don't work in isolation, where you have, it's a big use case where you have other data engineers and data scientists, derivative data design. You try to communicate with the engineers that built the attribution models, instrument wheel, trying to understand, okay, should this be built in Tableau or should it be built at the level of the data source before it comes into Tableau? And then also in mind trying to create data dictionary where you can, where you're able to refeed means, how the feed is calculated, if there's any business rules that apply. And then you create a version control strategy method where there's proper source control data preparation, where you have strategies for what is going to be in the sandbox, what's going to be live, and then you're able to control what version and how often you get to update it and what the end user gets to see when there's a request. Moving on to the next framework under the purpose of the usage of what the dashboard will be used. As I had to try to put a context analysis where you make sure that there's a logic from the high-level performance to the specific optimization opportunities. So these are like some of the things I try to do while I approach this use case more recently. I try to think about how I can create a logical pathway from when you meet the dashboard to answering some of the questions that you can have, and creating a scenario where you can be able to make decisions from what you see on the dashboard. And then, that brings you back to validating like the dashboard effectiveness by doing some user testing, having real users interact with it and iterating the dashboard, the behavior when they play around with the dashboard. And then you try to empower self-service as much as possible. So design the dashboard in a way that the users can answer their own questions, calling you for every request. That also and explaining a logical pathway for them to, play around with the dashboard. And then finally, under that, there is the action-oriented design where every insight connects to something that someone can actually do. Like if I'm looking at the performance of Facebook, I should be able to know, like, okay, based off this, what I see in the dashboard, I should probably pause this campaign, I should increase the budget. And then under the technical approach and the calculations, when they're trying to create the dashboard itself, one very important thing that you would have to intervene as someone that's trying to look at it from an expert's position is make sure that you're able to break your complex calculations into smaller testable pieces and then build on top of it, right? And then for some of these business rules, you try as much as possible not to code them, see as where you can have parameters, thresholds that can be configurable rather than you add code so that you can always adjust them as strategy changes or as several factors to play. And then making sure you optimize for performance, you are making sure you are choosing the right connection types. In a case where the dashboard does not have to be live, you can schedule the refresh to run on a daily basis, or depending on how the audience needs to see the data that's present in the dashboard. And then comes into applying advanced functions logically and intentionally. So you're using your expressions, LOD expressions, or your table calculations where they have value, not just technical now would try to do. And finally, when you then build the dashboard and you deploy, as an expert, the first things you will be thinking of is how do I set up systems that would to know when the data refresh is failing or when the performance has been needed, right? And through this, you're able to do this easily when you create published data sources where you have centralized data sources that multiple dashboards can use, and it's easy for you to maintain this dashboard because once you make a change at the server, it can affect everything at a go, instead of creating dashboards that connect to different data sources, different definitions, different models. And finally, you pay very good attention to your documentation. You try to create user guides. You try to have documentation of procedures that anyone can follow. Trying to probably recreate the dashboard or use the dashboard. And there is also the admin insight part of the cloud. So you try to monitor how frequently the dashboard is being used, what dashboard features are used, what dashboard features are ignored, and then you optimize based on that. But then the experts understand that the dashboard is not just a reporting tool. It's a decision-making product that needs to fit with whatever processes are in the business, and then it has to evolve and changing it. So how do you move from being a beginner that's had all the pitfalls in some of these several frameworks to understanding some of the things that you should do as an expert? So one, in aspect of the technical building, you have to be very with your practice, try to connect and engage with it. And basically have the skills that form the foundation that allow you to, implement some of these expert approaches. And then you move from trying and failing to, have much more confident solutions that you can always repeat every time you face a new problem. So one is community. You You try to join as many Tableau user groups as you can. Actually makes sense for you. And then you participate in community challenges so you can, improve your technical skills, make one Monday, back to Visual Basics, and so on. And then you try to follow Tableau experts or ambassadors or visionaries in social media to pay attention to what's happening on Tableau Public and, do a little bit of reverse engineering. And then you practice your function, like advanced functions. So, when is there to, probably use LODs or table calculations or structure your, calculations properly so that you're not just using the calculations, as a beginner would for just using sec, but you understand like this is the best case for this scenario. And then you download and dissect, you visit Tableau Public as often as you can. You try to recreate from the scratch. You try to improve. Every time you bring out a new dashboard or you work on a new project, you innovate. You try to, and get feedback and improve from there. And in terms of the business and communication skills, which is going to be very important because being technically just enough, you have to understand the context of the business or how to communicate this insight and discuss with the stakeholders to properly understand what to do. You can have like record practice sessions, try to develop your business vocabulary. One thing I do is like in meetings, I try to pay attention to some of the words that if I don't understand, ask questions, feedback. I try to improve your stakeholder communication. There are contexts to find yourself either in like workspace or for a freelance project. You make sure you understand the business context of the project you're going to work on. So not just getting the problem and immediately diving in. You try to understand, what are the industry fundamentals, what does success mean in this space, understand the decision process behind every action that happens in that business, and how you can connect your data to business impact. And then you build your presentation skills. You present your work as often as you can. You probably, present in TUGs like the analytics TUG and try to get familiar with explaining your thoughts and your reasoning process. And finally, because you can't work in silo and then working in isolation is usually a beginner's approach, you have to understand that it's important to work with other people that are data analysts or software engineers in your team or feedback from people in the community. So you observe in the meetings, you try to ask for mentorship if there's any use case for it so that you can learn more. And review partners, or you have a review checklist that you work with, so it makes it easy for you to like check wherever you have issues or wherever you are not, using some of this structured framework that will help you achieve success. And then when you are able to get your understanding of your style or what makes sense for you, you try to, be reciprocal and make sure you're able to go through that process over and over again. And then make sure you document your learnings. You are able to share and teach or get to learn more when you actually share and teach others. And that helps you to evolve from a beginner to an expert who are trying to solve the skills. So thank you. We can connect on next or LinkedIn. But yeah, let me know if there are any questions.
That was a very interesting presentation. I wish that I heard that as a beginner, to be totally honest. And I think that you sum up very well the process. I don't know what you think, Prasam, but I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's great. And also with lots of use cases and how we should think about, I think it's helpful because this whole process makes a lot of sense whenever you're building. And if we follow through whatever GB just talked about in each of the projects, I think this can really be effective in building a solution, because I myself, I'm a like pretty much every project we are doing at work as well, we go through each and every steps from not just jumping onto the data and just building it. So thank you so much, GB, for talking all about these strategies and how you evolved and what were things that usually happens when you're a beginner. You try to do these things and then how you can evolve more, not just with Tableau skills, but how to formulate a whole solution. And that means a lot. Thank you so much for talking about all these use cases.
We have a question from Mabidele. He asked about your presentation when you refer to having different views to different users. Are you referring to something like row level security, RLS, or are you referring to really having different dashboard based?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a mix of both. You can sort of define access even from the projects level in Tableau Cloud to even level access in the dashboards themselves. So from who has access to what kind of dashboards, it's from the projects level in Tableau Cloud. So projects are like folders in Tableau Cloud where you like put your different dashboards to even who has access in a dashboard itself and who can see what information. So it's a mix of row level security, yes, and also access management on the cloud or server. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chibi. Annabelle, are there any more questions, or we can move ahead?
I think that we can go ahead. I think I lost maybe some of them in the chat.
Yeah, great. Okay, then now we have our final speaker of the day, and he has been waiting to present. We have Nair. You can find him on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. That's up to you. So that's Smilga Nair on X, and he's a senior data visualization manager at Monday.com and was formerly a data visualization engineer at the Analytics Center of Excellence at Zoom Info. He's a Tableau featured author and public ambassador. I really love his visions, actually, how he crafts it. And however, he was originally a financial analyst who used Excel to make visions. I'm not going to make joke about this. Okay. It's late in the day, so yeah. And when he discovered Tableau, it was love at first sight. Besides doing base visits at work, he does love public visits, and I can vouch for that as well. Aside from visiting, Nair loves music, plays guitar and keyboard, and he loves hiking and photography. And it was great to meet him this year at TC. So he's going to talk about crafting a memorable interactive itinerary with Tableau, QGIS, and Python. So I'm handing it over to you, Nair. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey everyone, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me share my screen. How much time do I have?
As much as you want, because I have no life, no private life, nothing, so I can stay forever.
Okay. Oh, it wouldn't let me share. Just a second. Allow.
Don't worry, Nia. Today we had a lot of technical issues. So
Grant access to screen. Oh, okay, I will.
so this one we didn't have it yet. We had sound issue essentially, but that's fine. On the same time, Prasam, do you want to speak about the nice content competition that we will have at the end of the year?
Yes. So end of the year, we are doing something special, and all of you who have been attending via Analytics TUG, as also Annabelle quoted, that we have all your data. So the individual or the attendee, participant, whatever you want to call it, or Analytics TUG lover, whosoever is with the highest audience will have some swag and prizes for you. I can see I have some of my favorites I can see as well. I don't know about the data, but yeah, that's going to be there, and we'll release more information about it soon. We are going to meet in October, November, and then the final event of the year. So there's a lot going on, and we have a lot to host as well.
And yes, Anne brought up a nice idea. How much we have been chatting to Maybe for the one who makes the most jokes and make me laugh the most. Maybe we'll have a sticker or something. I'm sure we will find.
So it still makes problems.
We can still speak, you know. Just...
Click on the screen share icon in your browser address bar. Okay, I did. It's fine. It's the same, and it's allowed. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
maybe, Anne, maybe you can share with us your dad jokes visualization. I think.
So I see that Anne is my competition for making jokes.
John Baudouin is like quite good too, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Block temporary tag share scan. I don't know what it wants.
And I will click on Anna. These of their jokes. Oh my god, I think it's very good.
Dad joke database. Wow.
Yeah, but John, your little jokes, I'm sure I cannot pronounce it well. So it will be a joke inside a joke. And now we can see your screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that Nia froze. I think that
We can see his mouse.
But we can see his mouse moving, but we cannot hear him. I think that we have been what's the name, like jam? No, we have been.
It's a typhoon.
Someone is playing a joke on us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, and we see
Yay.
your screen. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to travel 2 times to the States, mostly the west part. The first time was 6 months ago, during TC, which was a great experience, and I had the opportunity to meet you, my favorite host, face to face. And then just like 1 month ago, I made a trip with my family, like once in a lifetime trip for more than a month. And I gathered so many experiences and memories. And as Parsan said before, I really like to visit about things that I care. And I really wanted to create a memorable something that I could go to and see my itinerary and photos and where the heck. So let me start with the photos that I made of those both trips, just to give you the impression of how lucky I was. The state is beautiful. This was the first part in near Las Vegas Round in Utah and Bryce, and this is the second one in the upper part. And when I had the opportunity to see the beautiful national parks, Yellowstone, Glacier, it was really amazing. And as I told you, I really like to viz. So I wanted to put these things on Tableau, and I want to share the experience with you. So this was my first viz. It was called From Conference to Canyons, when you can see the route that we took, and you can scroll and see the places. And just fresh from the oven, published today. This is the second one. This is for our latest trip in the States, in the north part of the West Coast. And let me go and show you what this viz includes. So briefly, you have these windows on top. I try to design it like an airplane view, in which you can see the different cities or parks that we visited. Here you can focus on the RV trip and see trips from the RV. It was really great experience. And then go to the parks themselves in Teton, and then see the specific trails and activities that we made, and focus on the pictures, see where we were on the map, and so forth, to Yellowstone and Glacier. It was really, really amazing. Let's wait for Glacier a bit, and then we'll move on. There is a riddle coming on. Let's see if you can answer it. In a second. This was and here you can see also the altitude for the lowest and higher part and see the elevation gain. This is what a trek that I took with my son. And here comes the riddle. Let's see if you can identify from which movie the scene that we are mimicking here. All right, so let's go on to the visit itself. Before, I would not represent myself because Parsan make a wonderful job. I will just tell you that I do visiting at work, and I'm lucky enough to have visiting in the. So sorry, I also do visiting in my spare time, and I'm lucky enough to have a job that I can do things that I love. So let's talk about those visits. Let's talk about the data. So first thing we'll have to do is to export the photos and metadata from Google Takeout. I don't know if you are familiar with that. We'll go over it in a second. Then after you import the photos, it could be Apple as well, not necessarily Google. And after you import them, you want to create a data set in a spreadsheet. So I will show how I generate a spreadsheet with the photos, the URL images, and the places, the coordinates, and how I did that automated using a Python script. I will talk about how to generate a mass URLs for all the photos that you took. I almost took more than 1,000 photos around this trip, so I cannot upload them manually one by one. So we'll talk about how I made it automatically. And then we have the spreadsheet. And then I will talk about some map features that I used using QGIS to show the locations and the route itself on the map. And if we'll have time, I'll talk about how to create like a custom, I think more designed map for using Mapbox. So first thing, we'll have to export photos with Google Takeout. You just go to type Google Takeout and you go to this Google screen. There's a lot of things in Google that you can export, like everything. It's a bit scary to understand how much information they gather on you. But if you want to focus on the photos, you just click on the photos. I recommend to first take all your photos, put them in a certain album, and then download them. So you don't have to mess with jigs and jigs of JSON files. And then what you'll have is a folder like that with pictures. And next to each picture, for each picture, actually, there is two files. One is the JSON file with the metadata, the coordinates, the altitude, and everything, and then the picture itself. Next thing is we want to visualize the route in Google Maps. So you just go to Google My Maps, you just type it in the browser, and then you can actually create this map. Let me go into it. All right. So you see, we have the route itself, and we have all the places that we parked for the lodging. And the way you do it is just you can create a spreadsheet ahead with all the places, the name to import here. And then you choose direction. And then you can see the route plotted on the map. And so for the locations. And after you have it, you can simply export it as a KML like that. Export to KML KMZ. This is a geospatial file, but unfortunately Tableau cannot read it. So we'll have to convert it into GeoJSON or to shapefile. And in the end, I wanted to show you also how I visualize I create like a more designed map. You know that if I go to let's see if I have it here. If I use the Google Satellite out of the box for Tableau, it's like too saturated in my taste. So I reduced the saturation. I also added the contour lines for the altitude of the mountains. Let me see if it's opened. Yeah. A second. Okay. So you see, if I go to map here and I replace it with the out-of-the-box satellite map, so it doesn't seem that nice in my taste, at least. It like seems too saturated. And I wanted to give like the sceneries of the views and to show like the places themselves. So what I did is using Mapbox. Here. I don't know if you are familiar with it, but if you like maps and you want to create like customized and beautiful maps, you should definitely use it. So this is like the map that I've used. And what I did here is to add contour lines because I wanted to say the altitude of the mountain. So if you zoom in, you can see them. For some reason here, you can see the little lines with the altitude of the mountains. And this is the way to do it is to import custom layers from Mapbox itself. I don't have much time to get into it, but I can share the entire process later if you would want. I would just say how I created the saturated, less saturated and more, I would think, better map is by using the satellite and then decrease the saturation and the opacity, so it would not take control on the viz itself, and it will be more fit to visualize and add layers on top of it. All right. So any questions about the data process? I'll share this presentation later on, so we'll have all the links and all the process. But if you have anything to ask before I go to the visualization part, feel free to ask.
No question from the moment.
Good. Let's go on.
When you show like the Google slide, don't forget to put it in slideshow so we can see it bigger.
Okay. Now here's the process to after we exported the XML. There is a simple process. There is QGIS, it's a geographical software. You can download it from free, and then you just import to the KML files that you downloaded, and just export it as a JSON, and then you can use it in Tableau as a layer for your map. Okay, now the visualization part. So for those of you who are not familiar, I want to go over briefly of the main features that I use to make this viz interactive and to make it like all the pictures pops and how to use all these things together a story using the interactive feature. So first of all, if you're not familiar, I will talk a bit about image roles URLs. Then I will talk about dynamic zone visibility, which is crucial in creating this kind of visualization, parameter actions, and map layers. Then I will go through the viz. Again, if time allows, I will go through the desktop viz and share like the main features that I prepared. And then hopefully there is time, you will have time to ask questions. So first of all, parameter actions and dynamic zone. These two are put together because they goes together like a horse and carriage. The one thing I can say about dynamic zone is that if you know the show height feature, that you can put on and off the specific tiles on the viz. So dynamic zone allows you to do that on steroids. You can use parameters, you can use the natural user flow, and by clicking something, you can hide and show the relevant tiles that you want. You can do that and save space. You can have automated control on the show hard features. It will make things more interactive and smooth, and it will make the flow on the user side much less complex and like intuitive in the flow. So one example that I did was when you click on someone on some picture on the viz. First, when you hover, you can see the picture, and then the other part, when you click on it, you can see the picture popping up and pushes the map to the side. So the way to do it is to define this zone of the picture as dynamic zone by clicking it, then use the visibility, and then tell Tableau that it will be hidden or shown based on the contents of a parameter. In this case, it is the image parameter. The image parameter, what happens when I click on it, it gets populated with the value of the image. And if it's not equals to none, which is the default value, then this tile will be shown. And the way to trigger it is, again, using the parameter action. You said, okay, using the map when triggering the URL, which is called Cloudinary URL, you can populate the value with the image param content, and then everything shown and in an interactive way. When you click away, the parameter again turns none, and then the picture goes away. So again, dynamic zones, there are many examples that you can see. I could use it. I use it for the Eurovision viz and for the UN viz that I made. And also there is advanced tutorials here that you can download and learn about it if you are not familiar yet. Again, I will share the presentation in the end, and you can use it. Image URLs. So again, I think more than 1,000 pictures. It doesn't make sense to download them, to upload them manually one by one. God forbid using the shapes, because it will be like a really tedious mission for me to do that. Also, the amount of gigabytes this viz will take will be enormous. So the way to use images in a scalable way is to use the image URLs. By using image URLs, you can enhance your visual context and to show images, even like large magnitude quantity, in a scalable way. So once you have the image URL, and I will explain a bit shortly how to do it, how to convert them from like hard copy images that we got from the folder into Cloudinary URLs. So once you have the URL, you just click on image role and set it by URL. And then if you drag it to the rows or the columns, it will simply show the picture with no using of shapes and in a much more scalable way. So let's talk about Cloudinary and how to get this URL, because I went past this part. So Cloudinary is a free platform that allows you to take and use image URLs on the fly. It means that you can take a photo, upload it to here. Those are all my photos from the trip. And then it generates a URL for each one of the pictures. Eventually, what we'll have after the automated part did its job, we will have spreadsheet we will show, which looks like that. So you see, this is the output I got from the script that I will show in a second. We have the image name, we have the date, we have the time, we have the longitude, we have the latitude. We have the Cloudinary URL that also been populated through the script, the altitude, then the place, and all kind of helper columns. But like the basic is the longitude, the altitude, the image URL, which is the basic for you to create the view. So let's go over the script for a second. So again, what this script does, remember the folders that you exported all the JSON files and the pictures from Google My Photos. It connects to this folder once you find it. Then it uploads the pictures into Cloudinary in an automated way. And then it exports it to a CSV or XLS file, which I copied and pasted into the Google Sheets because I like to use Google Sheets more. So the first part, I will not go it obviously, but the first part is to configure all the things. For instance, you have to have Cloudinary account. Once you have a Cloudinary account, you have an ID, and then you get an API key, which you will need to place in the script, and then API secrets. And then I use the generous help of ChatGPT, who helped me to create, like in 10 minutes, this script. But again, you will have access to it here. So basically, it goes to the folders, it runs a loop, go over every JSON file and every image, and it uploads them to the Google Sheet eventually. Then you run it, and what you have eventually is like the Cloudinary image with all the photos uploaded, and a Google Sheet with all the images, the coordinates, the times that they took. And if you want, you can create an image function to show before you upload it to Tableau that the image does work. You can simply do image and distill, and you can see all the pictures that we took here. All right, this is for the image URLs. Again, if you have any question, Annabelle, feel free to stop and ask.
We have one question from John. Is this possible if we use the Apple iCloud for photo storage versus Google, or this is a Google-only possible item?
So I asked this question. I went to, before I made this, the preparation for this presentation, I knew this question because there is, I think, I don't know if more, but there is enough users who are using Apple. And there is a service that Apple creates similarly to Google Takeout, because this is something that you have to do legally. When you do like service, you provide when you collect data about people, you have to give them the possibility to take it. So yes, there is a solution also for Apple. You can do it only by Apple. You can do it by mix, by exporting to Google Sheets, or you can use the Apple solution plainly. Again, simple thread to either ChatGPT or Gemini will tell you the exact process of how to do it and what is the parallel for Google Takeout. Okay, if no question, I will go on. Again, there is examples here for image URLs which you can use. I used it when I try to visualize the viz for my public portfolio. So you can see the thumbnails for the visas that I took from the metadata and the APIs that Tableau Public has. And you can, I also use this methodology from our organization when we created a data hub and we wanted to show the thumbnail for the visas. So this is the same technique that we used. And also for the Viking viz that I prepared, I'm created. There is also history pictures that I want to show along the map. It's also an interactive map, which you can click and see like the image and description of it. And again, you have resources if you want to explore it more, blogs that really help me, and you are most welcome to use to enhance your skills. Last but not least is map layers. So map layers can be, I think for me, it's the most game-changing features that Tableau have published lately, because I'm not using it also for map. I'm using it for business dashboards. It allows you to go beyond dual access to add as much layers as you want to the visualization that you have. Of course, originally Tableau meant for us to use it in maps, and this is what I did in this viz, but I wanted to know that if you want to take it further, this is a technique that you can use to really create complex visualization. And map layers, you can see that we have the map here. So instead of just do two marks that we have on the regular, on the regular dual access that we have, here you can have like as many marks as you want. If I go to the viz itself, let me go back to this previous map view. I think it was this one. No, sorry. Okay. So if I go to the sheet, so you can see that we have a layer for the buffer for the resolution. I didn't allow here to zoom in and out because it can get really messy and out of control. Users scrolling in and out, and suddenly you see the entire world and you lost your perception. So I locked it out, but I used certain placeholders that I use as a viz extents to focus on a specific feature. And this is the flights, which is not visible here in these views. This is the lodging. So you see if I hide it, this is what shows the lodging, and this is the RV routes that I downloaded from Google My Maps. And you can use like as many layers as you want. Okay. Sorry. All right. So I think we are past the original time, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them. I plan to go specific features that I made on the viz, but again, I don't know if time allows. So I'll be happy to go whatever you will say, Annabelle.
Whatever you want to say, you can say it. Anyway, if people have to leave, they will leave, and we will have that for the recording. That's fine. We can allot 5 additional minutes.
Okay. So let me talk about specific features.
We have a question from Jennifer. Which movie was the photo depicting? But I don't know what she's referring to.
I know what she's referring.
Ah, okay. Yeah, most probably.
She is referring, and not this one. It was from, I think, Trail of the Cheddars. I think it was not this one. Not this one. Come on. Okay, it was like this photo, but with my whole family hiding. And this is the famous thing for scene from Lord of the Rings. when Frodo and his friends were hiding from, I think it was the Black Rider. I forgot what his name. I think Ganzul or something like that. Let me try see if I can.
Don't worry, we got the answer. If it's from the Word of the Ring, where they're all hiding below.
Yeah. Okay, so okay.
Don't worry.
I'm not worried. I'm a bit disappointed that I cannot show it, but it's okay. Okay. So if there are no further questions, given the time, I think we'll call it off for this session. Feel free to address me with any question that you have. You can connect to me, and I'll be happy to explain anything from the visualization. So thank you, everyone, and have a good one.
Thank you very much, Nia, for coming and for for doing this presentation on the condition that you had, and for who stay until the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
No, we had a lot of technical issue today, but that's the beauty of going live.
Yes.
Prasam, do you want to conclude?
Yeah, I think, as you said, everything is good if it ends well. And I think it was a blend of so many great features as well as tips from all of the speakers, as well as a very thoughtful session from GB as well around the strategy. So thank you so much again, everyone, all the speakers, Nhung Le Tore, Nair, GB, thank you so much for coming, as well as for sharing your knowledge with us. I can see in the chat, I can say people had a lot of fun. And thank you so much again for joining, everyone. And before you leave, I think Annabelle has already...
Please register for October.
Yeah, so she's already mentioned it, but it's my job as well. So please do scan this QR code. You will find our next events as well. There are, again, great speakers coming up, and you will have a lot of fun. So thank you so much again, and we'll see you next month. Take care.
Thank you very much too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.